So, I've been wanting to make an end of the year video for the last like 3 weeks, and I haven't even known what to say. I couldn't decide if I wanted it to be a wrap up or something inspirational or a montage or just expressing my thoughts about the whole year. But I'm realizing that I probably should have scripted this because then I could actually get a decent video out of it. But I just sat down. It's 10:30 on December 31st, 2020, and my wife was just doing pregnancy exercises in the living room, and Hazel is sitting here in my office watching her cartoon because I haven't actually set aside any time to do this. I've been wanting to do this for a couple of weeks, but just couldn't figure out what I wanted to say. So I'm just gonna ad-lib it. I wrote down the bullet points, although most of the reasons this year was crazy you guys are familiar with. But if anything, this is just for me to look back on because this year was insane. So like, if you look back, my first video of the year, I had like 230 subscribers. We were living in a duplex on a sort of weird side of town. Like, my bikes got stolen and somebody keyed our cars. You know, that kind of weird side of town. I'm just gonna run through it. The year was insane, and I don't ever want to forget like the crazy stuff we went through this year. So, and not all of it was bad. Some of it was just different stuff we weren't really expecting. So in January, I was working for a factory in Gold Hill. I had benefits and decent pay and a little room to move up. And so I was trying to be content. Like, this could be the job I work for the rest of my life. If that happens to be the way it plays out. Because it, up to that point, had been the best job that I had had in my life. And so I was grateful for where I was at. And I didn't really expect that much to change. And we didn't have any plans to move yet. We were sort of house shopping, but we hadn't committed to anything yet. We were living in a duplex. And then we got into 2020. So I want to go through with how our lives shifted and changed over the year. So in like February or March, we moved out of our duplex into a house my parents owned to rent from them. Hazel turned a year old in April, and it was only a few months after that we found out about pregnancy number 2, which we later found out is going to be a girl, and Cassie right now is due in 6 weeks with our second girl. That we found out in like early summer. So COVID led to me getting laid off at that job I was working at that factory. At the end of June, I started to look at other options because with getting laid off, it was like every other 2 weeks. It wasn't an official layoff. It was like you don't work a week and then you trade out with your coworker, and then he doesn't work a week. And we were doing like alternating layoffs. So technically I was still employed, but I could still collect unemployment for every week that I was off, if that makes any sense. But it got me looking for other options of employment because I didn't want to be doing that, and I wasn't sure when COVID was gonna end. So I was talking with my dad, and between him having to fire one of his guys and needing somebody, and having moved to Phoenix, we were less than a mile from my dad's business. I overheard him and my mom talking about how he's gonna retire in 7 years and doesn't have anybody to run the family business when he retires, and our last name is plastered on the roof. And so they were thinking about how they're going to have to dissolve the business and sell the equipment and rent the building out that they own to somebody else. And that got me thinking, because I'm like, I live less than a mile away, and my career is sort of in limbo with layoffs and COVID and my own brain pondering other options. And then my dad needed to hire somebody like that week, like he needed somebody to work for him. And so I decided with some prayer and consideration that I was going to be trained by my dad over the next 7 years to run the family business. So I quit my job in Gold Hill. I gave my 2 weeks, worked one more week because of the layoff rhythm, and then I was out of there. Yeah, did you finish it already? That's a long book. And started working for my dad. And I worked for my dad for 8 weeks, and then it all burned to the ground. So the Alameda fire here in Oregon ran through my neighborhood, literally burned the houses across the street from my house, and hit my dad's automotive shop where I had just started working 8 weeks prior. And that was insane. Like, so amidst COVID layoffs, having just moved with a toddler, finding out my wife is pregnant, and deciding that I wanted to run the family business, so I switched jobs, it all gets burned to the ground. I had honestly forgotten this before editing and looking at old footage, but Hazel broke her arm 2 weeks before the fire, so she was in a cast for 6 weeks. while we were living in a travel trailer at her parents' house, waiting for our hometown to be cleared to move back in. So that same day that the fire hit the shop was the same day that my YouTube channel hit 1,000 subscribers and I got monetized on my YouTube channel, which is nothing huge, but that was, I thought, a weird coincidence that I was sitting at my parents' house wondering if my house was going to burn down, and I get this notification that, like, hey, your YouTube videos can be monetized now. Like, that was just a weird coincidence. And so I've spent, so the shop burned September 9th, and then I was working for my dad for like 3 months up at his house. So now I'm just working on, I put a waterfall inside a coffee table and I reset my climbing wall, and I'm spending lots of good time with my pregnant wife and our toddler. She's not 2 yet. I was gonna say 2-year-old. She's not 2 until April. So that led me in this predicament for this video of like, well, what do I make a video about? Like, I could script something and be like, you know, fight through your trials and your differences and still be creative in all of it and find time to make videos even when people don't give you time to make videos. And I don't know, it all just felt fake and cheesy and like I was trying too hard to make a good video. And like, I don't want to do that. I just wanted to document like what exactly happened this year so that I can look back, or Hazel can even look back if she really wants to in years from now, and be like, dang, 2020 was a weird year. And part of me thinks 2020 won't even feel special in a couple of years. Because as weird as it was, even, you know, COVID, lockdowns, fire running through my hometown, like that's still not the weirdest life could get. There is a chance that life gets weirder next year. And so I'm leaving that option open, and I'm mentally preparing myself for the chance that the world gets even weirder. And so I just wanted to document right now where we are. It's New Year's Eve, going into a new year. I blew my subscriber goal out of the water. Total side note, I said I was going to get 500 subscribers this year, and between the water feature and the fire, I ended up hitting over 2,000 before the end of the year. So I don't know how to edit confetti into a video, just for fun. I have a ton of videos I didn't finish this year. We went camping, we went to the coast, we did some yard work, and I never finished the videos because I felt like I didn't have the time, I didn't want to, I wasn't inspired, or it wasn't an exciting video, or it wouldn't fit the brand of the channel now. And I'm just gonna throw it in there. So here's a montage. Some of it you might have seen, some of it I used in videos already, but here's the year. And this is just so that we can look back on it, or you guys can be entertained, because it was a crazy year, but there was a lot of good that happened this year. So we're going into a new year, and I don't have anything else to say. I do have lots of other projects I'm working on, and we are rebuilding the shop. So if you're interested in seeing funny landscape projects and DIY videos and vlogs and seeing us rebuild our local small town family automotive shop, then subscribe and follow along, and we will see you guys in the next year.